Hello, I'm the Trek Lad, arbiter of good Star Trek, and this is my review of the first season episode of Star Trek the Original Series, Court-Martial. In this episode, Captain Kirk faces a career-ending court-martial when records indicate he may have been responsible for the death of a member of his crew. With the evidence, including a damning video log stacked against him, Kirk must rely on Spock, McCoy, and an eccentric lawyer to prove his innocence and uncover the truth. Court-Martial introduces the courtroom drama to Star Trek, a genre that on the face of it feels like a strange fit, but actually works surprisingly well, with plenty of episodes over the years having fun with the format. The episode starts strong with Kirk in a vulnerable spot we've not really seen before, and the trial scenes are appropriately tense with some great exchanges and a real sense of uncertainty. But as the episode goes on, it starts to lose its footing as the intriguing legal stuff loses focus, crumbling under shaky logic and frustrating storytelling choices. By the end, what should have been a gripping story of justice ends up feeling muddled and mostly underwhelming. What I like most about this episode, aside from the courtroom stuff, is how it gives us a very different look at Kirk. Seen throughout so much of the show as Starfleet's untouchable golden boy, here he's dressed down by Commodores and shunned by his colleagues, some who seem almost happy to see him knocked down a peg or two. It's a stark contrast to how we usually see him, this shining example of future humanity, essentially disgraced and cancelled by people who are quick to judge based on rumours and hearsay. Maybe the humans of the 23rd century aren't all that different from us after all. What makes this also interesting is how the accusation begins to eat away at Kirk's confidence. Faced with damning evidence during the trial, he begins to doubt himself, which is something we almost never see. It's a deeply relatable moment that makes him feel more human, less the untouchable hero, and more a man struggling with uncertainty. A lot of this works thanks to Shatner's performance. Say what you will about his over-the-top acting, I've talked about it before in previous reviews, but when he reins himself in, he's capable of some really effective dramatic stuff. Evidence here in quieter moments where Shatner shows us Kirk's inner turmoil in subtle flickers of doubt. But luckily for Kirk, he's got two very powerful allies. While much of this episode has him isolated, shunned by colleagues and under intense scrutiny, Spock and McCoy stand firmly by his side, refusing to believe he's actually capable of what he's been accused of. Spock in particular proves invaluable, using his logical mind as well as a bit of chess to poke holes in the case, while McCoy puts his fiery passion to good use once again, adding that all-important human emotion to the equation. Their fierce defense of Kirk during the trial is a heartwarming reminder of their bond. Despite the overwhelming evidence, they trust the captain implicitly, reinforcing their developing connection that would see them become Trek's iconic trifecta. Like I said earlier, the courtroom drama might seem like an odd fit for Star Trek, but over the years the format has proven to be an effective way to explore characters, ethical dilemmas, and even the bureaucracy of Starfleet. Court-Martial is one of the first attempts at this, laying the groundwork for some of Trek's legal stories to come. The most obvious and probably most famous example of this is TNG's The Measure of a Man, an episode that borrows heavily from what we see here. Both episodes feature a Starfleet officer on trial, fighting for their career, prosecuted by someone with implied romantic ties to the captain. But where The Measure of a Man is a focused, intellectually engaging story that delivers a satisfying resolution, I can't really say the same about this. The best courtroom dramas are the ones with sharp questioning, surprise revelations, and smart legal manoeuvring. Court-Martial does get some of this right early on, following legal procedure in a way that echoes classic military trial films like The Caine Mutiny. But instead of staying focused and delivering a satisfying conclusion, the episode veers wildly off course. The trial concept is mostly abandoned midway through as the action shifts back to the Enterprise, and it all ends with a clumsy action sequence that undercuts most of what the drama had built up. It almost feels like the producers, or perhaps the studio, probably the studio, didn't trust the premise to hold the audience's interest. Like so many episodes of the series, it feels like action was thrown in for the sake of ratings, and if that's true, well, I think that's a shame. While the episode does come undone in its final acts, there is one moment that works well, and that's the scene where McCoy isolates the heartbeats using the ship's sensors. It's a simple yet effective scene with the tension rising as McCoy slowly removes the heartbeats of everyone until only one impossible beat remains. It's a genuinely gripping moment, one that reminds me of similar drawn-out revelations like the infamous blood test scene from John Carpenter's classic The Thing, and, back to Trek, the scene on the holodeck in TNG's unnerving 6th season episode Schisms. Even if the big reveal that Finney faked his death and has been hiding on the ship the whole time feels pretty far-fetched, this scene still works. It's classic Trek, problem-solving using logic and science to uncover the truth. In an episode that struggles outside the courtroom, this scene delivers, and is arguably the most memorable moment of the entire episode. Another memorable moment, but for all the wrong reasons, is the prosecution's big reveal. Video footage of Kirk pressing the button to jettison the pod before calling Red Alert. Based on this, the case should be open and shut. But as we later learn, the footage was faked. Finney tampered with the computer to manipulate the evidence. But how exactly was this done? Did Finney pre-record it? Was it some sort of digital recreation? A deepfake decades before deepfakes existed? This is what really breaks the episode for me. A good courtroom drama should feel like a mystery, a puzzle we can piece together along with the characters. But court-martial makes this impossible because the most crucial piece of evidence is never properly explained. The episode tries to hand-wave it with the vague claim that Finney manipulated the footage, but again, how? How was this done? How was one man able to alter a computer log so convincingly that it fooled everyone? Looking back, this idea makes more sense today in a world of generative AI where deepfake technology improves every day. But that clearly wasn't the episode's intent. The writers backed themselves into a corner, and instead of addressing it, but they just ignored it. And that sucks. And then there's Finney's revenge, a plan which falls apart the second you begin to think about it. How did no one notice him sneaking around the Enterprise? How was he surviving? What was his long-term goal? Hiding in a Jeffries tube forever? We then get the climactic fight scene complete with a big wrench for some reason, and of course another classic shirt tear, which I always find funny. Only a couple of episodes ago Kirk's uniform survived much worse against the Gorn, and yet here it can't deal with a single judo toss. And it gets even weirder. Despite now knowing Finney is alive, a revelation that should have immediately ended the trial, Commodore Stone inexplicably wants to hear Finney out as a witness in his own murder case? What the fuck? How does any of this make sense? Credit where it's due, Richard Webb delivers a solid performance as Finney, capturing his bitter rage at Kirk and the tragedy of a man consumed by his own hate. But no performance, doesn't matter how good, can save a plot this flimsy. Oh, and I nearly forgot about the lawyer. Yeah, there's more. Sam Cogley, Kirk's eccentric defense attorney, is an intriguing character who pushes back against Trek's high-tech future, preferring dusty old books over what is essentially a bulky 60s Kindle. Nothing wrong with that. I love a good book. But his distrust of technology is never meaningfully explored beyond a passionate yet vague speech about valuing humanity over machines, yet another example of the show's writers projecting their unease with emerging technology. At times this all feels like we're getting some sort of backdoor pilot for a sci-fi legal spin-off show. But then, out of nowhere, he leaves to go get Jamie Finney, another purely utilitarian character, and never comes back. Like a lot of weaker TOS episodes, Court Martial has great potential, but stumbles in the execution. The setup is strong, the courtroom scenes are mostly great, and Kirk's personal struggles with creeping self-doubt make for some compelling, character-driven drama. But I just can't look past the episode's drawbacks, the nonsensical plot twists, the half-baked man versus machine theme, and the deeply unsatisfying left-field resolution. I'm giving Court Martial a 4 out of 10. There are some good memorable moments here that keep it from being a complete disaster, but overall, it's a frustratingly uneven episode that never fully delivers on its premise. But what did you think of this episode? Did you love it? Did you hate it? How would you rate it? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, subscribe for more Star Trek reviews, and until next time, live long and prosper.